sedation on.
I'm gonna get you out of here. All right, but we don't have much time.
Who are you?
I'm Harry Osborn. I want to make you a deal.
I should kill you.
Come on. Think bigger, Max. I'm not the one you want. You want Spider-Man. And I can give him to you. But I need something first.
Do you expect me to talk?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to episode 189 of Do You Expect Us to Talk? I'm your host, Becca, and as always, joined by my fellow Spidey Sense co-hosts Chris and Dave. How are you both, fellows?
Good evening, folks.
Good evening, and hello, everyone.
I was waiting a quippy quip from you there, Chris, but maybe not.
Oh, I think this film probably going to get enough of this.
To be honest, this film arrived pre-piss taken.
Also, as we were recording on 4th of August, yesterday was Chris's birthday, so happy belated birthday, Chris. Woo!
Thank you very much. Feeling very much older. Thank you.
One more year of experience.
Yeah, apparently I'm the age requirement to play Bond now, so I reckon that's it. I spend the rest of this
You've
year.
got to be in the.
You graduated from Batman to Bond.
You've
Yeah.
got to be in the frame. I mean, why wouldn't they want a 5'7" tall guy from
With no acting
You've got to be blonde, you
experience
can dye your hair.
no acting experience
and H&D in media studies. That's surely that's all you need, isn't it? Like,
Well, you can.
Yeah, you can do that, no
You
worries.
can advise behind the scenes with that.
yes, you know,
I'll tell you what,
You
that's
had
something that
someone
Bond
with an
doesn't have.
HND in media studies.
and I have a gym membership. I mean, what more could they want? You know.
Yeah, so yeah, just, a couple of minutes of rowing and you'll be ready to go. That's all Daniel Craig does, isn't it?
He doesn't even have one of those. But he doesn't have the H&D in media studies.
I mean, I know I'm like not the ideal. Like, I'm slightly shorter, being 5'7", but platforms. Tom Cruise manages it. It's like,
He can do it.
Just cast little people in all the other roles.
yeah. There you are.
Get them to work in a groove.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ralph Fiennes still does all his scenes sitting down behind a desk. No,
Yeah,
no.
but pretending he stood up. Perhaps we can add dialogue like, "Ooh, me feet hurt today. I've been on them a long time."
Yes.
Sorry, Bond, just going to sit down for a bit.
Yeah. And instead of like an Aston Martin, you could get like one of those toy pedal cars kids have. So you look quite big in the car.
What, those plastic ones that are red and yellow?
We'll paint it silver.
Oh, okay, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. There's ways to do this. Unfortunately, the delays between films are so long that you'll have aged out just after you were cast, I think.
Yeah, I'll be retired by the next time they cast a new.
Yeah, so you'll be retiring by the time the next one rolls around.
I'll be retiring. I'll be like 70 odd.
But yeah, it can't be that hard. I saw a picture of Daniel Craig working out for a Bond film. He
I'll
won't
be
even
as old
move.
as Roger Moore when he retired.
Nobody's that old.
Oh.
Hey, I watched Octopussy yesterday.
Oh, God. How did it go?
Badly.
Oh,
I keep thinking I've got this absurd...
why'd you put yourself through it?
Well, because I'm watching them all in the build-up to a film that's not going to come out in November.
No.
And I just happen to have got to Octopussy, which I was supposed to watch on Friday, but it's a bit like ripping off a plaster. Just do it quickly now.
Oh, I suppose, yeah, get it out of the way.
Yeah, that was it. I was shifting things around, and I was like, I'm in a mood to be utterly bored and miserable. So I put in Octopussy yesterday, and I've always got this absurd hope because so many people do like it.
It's going to get better.
That it's going to be a better experience, and I'll actually follow the plot this time and stuff. And like,
plus, it was also Steve Urkel's birthday as well.
It was. He was 83 yesterday. And so I was watching it.
Still as crazy as ever.
And the pre-title I've always hated, but like, I was kind of enjoying it this time. So I thought, this isn't so bad. And the property of a lady seems good. So I thought, I'm about to have an epiphany with this. And then about another half an hour later of being extraordinarily bored, I thought, I'm only 40 minutes into this. Fucking hell. And the last hour and a half was pure torture.
Oh dear. You did it though, Dave. You did it for England.
I did it for England.
Just have, that's like me and Diana the day. You just think, oh Christ, really?
Diana the Day is objectively far worse, but I'm never as bored by it as Octopussy.
No, it's more enjoyable, I think.
Octopussy just drags. It's just so long. So, yeah.
The real test is when we do the commentary. That's the...
Well, that was the thing, because I was thinking, because my commentary choice is next, and I started, and I thought, I might change my mind to do Octopussy next, because, like, it'll be good fun, and, like, you know, the fun of me choosing it with all I had to say about it. And by the end of the film, I was like, I don't want to see this again for quite a long time.
No.
So that's it. I've done my mandatory once every sort of Bond film release watch of it. And that's it till we do the commentary, which will not be my choice next time, I promise. But, you know, perhaps I'd been spoiled because I'd watched a really great film before that. What are we covering tonight, Becca?
Tonight, it's my favourite film in this series. Oh my god. No, it's The Amazing Spider-Man 2, starring Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, Jamie Foxx, Sally Field, Dana Hunt, Colin Fiore, whose name I can't pronounce, Paul Giamatti.
I'm not sure myself, to be honest.
No, but Davis and Stan Lee. Obviously, it was Spider-Man created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, script by our favourites Kurtzman and Ortsy, directed by Mark Webb, and released in 2014, though I've written in my haste 2104. I've just written
2104.
Not released yet.
Yeah.
And released
you know,
in
I'd be quite positive about the idea of being dead by then.
Anyway, certainly my stinky senses were tingling for this one.
Stinky sense.
Spidey sense? I meant stinky sense.
I've seen worse superhero films, but this is actually the Batman Forever of this series.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you know, to give it its due, like the visual effects are quite impressive. I remember sort of thinking, seeing this at the cinema, I think actually, yeah, they look quite good. Although it was one of those released in 3D, wasn't it? So I think I did make the error of seeing it in 3D, you know, with 30% light loss and one thing or another. Jamie Foxx, you know, is brilliant. Is literally electric as Electro.
Hey.
He puts on a really good performance. But it's just,
he's
again,
a bit
just
Dwayne Dibley, though, isn't it?
There's a lot going on. Yeah, he is a little bit.
Yeah, it's like Dwayne Dibley had a child with Jim Carrey's Edward Nygma.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that. It is Enigma meets.
People like this don't exist in the world.
It's the other way around, where like he's the Duke of Dork.
What half electric beings that can like?
Yeah, they don't exist, Chris. I think it's far-fetched. No, I mean how he looked before. I mean, comb-overs exist and bad teeth exist, but never to quite this cartoonish degree.
No,
but I think, I don't know if, because obviously I'm not sort of very familiar with the comics. I mean, would you say, is that kind of like a authentic comic book kind of, you know, character, and perhaps they are literally going back to the comics, going back to the source and saying, okay, what's the most, you know, faithful adaptation of this that we can do? But I say I did enjoy it. Main problem kind of like, you know, they tried to pack a lot in, and there's an epic retconning going on, and they just tried to cram so much in. There's probably one of the longest films in the Spider-Man series.
Well, it didn't. I mean, all Spider-Man films to some degree do well, but this is the lowest grossing live-action Spider-Man film, I think. I might have to check on the. I might have to check on the. Tom Holland ones, but in fact I'll do that now. But
with my buddy Jake in it.
It didn't have legs, and that reflects the fact that it wasn't wildly well received. From my part, I mean, just in terms of Far From Home did over $1 billion, so that's the highest grossing. And I'm just going to see if I can find Homecoming. Homecoming did 880. So yeah, both Holland films. Not adjusting, just pure take, are the best two grossing of the live-action films. Although Spider-Man 3 would have run Homecoming fairly close. From my perspective, there are a handful of times in my life where my first viewing hasn't matched subsequent viewings at all. I came out of this surprisingly positive, and I have to admit that no one's going to go and fact check me, but there are still tweets there if you go back far enough where I'm not exactly effusive, but I'm arguing with someone who hated it. And I'm not really arguing as much as I'm saying, no, I he's saying it's objectively bad, and I'm saying no, I'm quite comfortable with how I feel about it. I can see its flaws, but there are things in it I've responded to, and I now know what that is, and we'll talk about it as we go through what it is about it I do respond to. But I found it quite offensive on rewatch. Well, no, on rewatch I really didn't like it. I saw all its flaws in stereo, and I didn't want to watch it again. That was the problem. I put it on, and within a few minutes I'm like, this is loud, garish and horrible, and I'm not enjoying it. When I watched it in prep for this, two things. Firstly, I rented a copy from Amazon, and I could have bought it for like £1.50 more, and I did the rental. I was just like, I don't want to own this, because last week we had some problems amongst the three of us getting hold of copies of it, so I actually bought a copy, and I was happy. And although I don't want to own a copy of The Amazing Spider-Man particularly, I don't mind owning a copy, but I wasn't going to own a copy of this. But I watched it a couple of days ago, and I found it quite offensive and jarring in that you've got this lead couple that have wonderful chemistry. They were together in real life at this point. So that I was responding to, because that works really well. There's very few partnerships in superhero films that have been that strong and that authentic feeling. But around it, you've got the worst dialogue in the entire series, and that's an Orsi and Kurtzman special. Bits of it not making sense at all. It's ridiculously overstuffed, but I'll tell you what really jarred this time. I couldn't remember the score to this film, but I knew James Horner had been replaced. He hadn't died by this point, but I knew he wasn't doing this one.
Yeah, he declined to do it. I don't think he enjoyed.
He declined it, but I don't know if that's, that may not be anything other than he just didn't enjoy the first one. It might not be saying anything about these two films other than he struggled with John Watt or not John Watt's the next series. Sorry, Mark Webb or whatever. I don't know, but it opened up and we went immediately into like Hans Zimmer's version of the Spider-Man score, if you like, and that was okay. It sounded like a kind of relative of the Horner version, in some ways. But the music for this is the Magnificent Six, as they called it.
Oh yeah.
And it's like loads of different people. Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics is on it. Johnny Marr's on it.
Pharrell Williams.
Pharrell
Williams
Junkie
is on
XL.
it. Junkie XL, Steve Mazzaro, who I think might be working with Zimmer on No Time to Die.
Yeah.
Or that's past tense now. It's been done. And you would, but go and listen to almost any supergroup in history, and they're always less than the sum of their parts. And this is a disjointed mess of score. None of it matches. It feels haphazard. It feels like the film's almost had several different directors, doing little vignettes within it. And all of the scoring around Electro is horrendous. Whoever had the idea of this, like his own internal voice speaking to him as his score.
I kind of think that works both. That was quite good, because it's almost as if not kind of like split personality sort of thing, but he does have this like internal monologue, because he's talking to himself all the time, and he's trying to kind of talk himself up and trying to say that you are a person of worth. You're not a nobody. You are a somebody. So he's kind of got this diarising himself. But
I understand where it's come from.
But I can appreciate it is a bit cheesy. I did
it's more the fact that it's one of those ideas that when it gets floated in like a production meeting, you can understand them saying, "Let's give it a try." But the end result is so disjointed. I just think you can't.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Say to Zimmer's team, you do the lot, because his main team is okay. It's all a degree less subtle and more cartoonish than last week. I mean, they've brightened the color palette. You can see where they're trying to course correct from last week, and they've gone for something of a mix between Ultimate Spider-Man and the the Maguire outfit. With no explanation of the complete change. The web shooters are completely different, everything. But even the casting, I mean, Dane DeHaan looks evil immediately.
Yeah, I kind of feel he was perhaps a bit typecast here because he's kind of got that face, hasn't he? Unfortunately,
Yeah, he does.
I do feel a little bit typecasting for him. I mean, he's a brilliant actor. I'm happy to watch whatever he does.
Dane DeHaan's really good, but he's not.
He's a good actor, but
he's like a scrawny, bit creepier version of Leonardo DiCaprio, isn't he? Really, a scrawny, younger, a bit unhinged version of DiCaprio.
a bit substance abusey as well in his look. He's got a bit of heroin chic about him.
Yeah, especially when he starts getting like scaly and that sort of thing as well.
Well, I mean, after the treatment, the makeup choices there are not good either. But you've got Paul Giamatti in this for minutes. Now, Paul Giamatti's
brilliant. He's hilarious.
Great as an actor. And once you get people like him in Sally Field and completely waste them,
they're really underused.
On the basis of a future universe, they've not earned. So you've got more of this mystery that doesn't work. I mean, I've slipped into opening thoughts here, which I didn't mean to.
Sorry about that. That was my fault. I've kind of stumbled downhill into that one.
It was more about sort of the difference between initial impressions and where I am now. But I may as well just carry on and finish off my points. Really, they've course corrected. Dan Mindell was brought in to do the cinematography for this. He's worked a lot with JJ. So he did both of JJ's Star Wars films. He did both of JJ's Star Trek films. He did his Mission Impossible film, and so on. And he worked with people like Tony Scott a couple of times. Very few classics in his record, but his films look pretty good. And this is a nice looking film. There are issues with makeup and stuff, but that's nothing to do with him really. I just think it's an absolutely dreadfully insulting mess that I responded to the first time because the two leads are so good. Now, while I think Tom Holland is the definitive Spider-Man now, live action certainly, Andrew Garfield was pretty good, and these two together were great. And I think I really responded to that. And there's a bit in the film where I don't know where Peter is. He might be in the school cafeteria or a library or something. I forget what it is. And he's on his laptop, a Sony Vaio, as they all were back in that year.
This film, oh my god, so much product placement. Obviously, it's a Sony movie, so you're going to see lots of Sony products.
It's Bing, not Google, but yeah.
Exactly. But it was kind of like, it was just really. I felt like product placement in this film was just over the top. It was a proper like Skyfall level of product placement.
It never bothers me. I only pointed it out there because it's a Sony film, and that's like, there are bits where they've all got Sony phones and they've all got Bing, and but he sees that Norman Osborn has died. He's watching the news, and just the empathy on his face for like his old childhood friend that he. And the sense of guilt you can read into the expression that he's let the relationship lapse and stuff like that. That's all punching above the weight of the film. And I responded to that. And with it having a nice bright colour palette I enjoyed, and some real wisecracking from Spidey in the first scene or two, came out quite positive. But it really is dreadful. It's not Batman and Robin bad, but I think it is Batman Forever bad. It's a terrible script. I expect that from these two. I don't know why they keep getting fucking hired, because they're crap. The dialogue is horrendous, and at one point Emma Stone gives a speech, and it's right up there with Captain Kirk at the end of not Beyond, Into Darkness, with the Captain's Oath bullshit. You know,
the Federation Oath. Space.
Where he says it teaches us who we once were. And it's like, space, the final frontier. No, it doesn't. Your words are meaningless there. You've assembled words that sound like a speech. And that's exactly what Emma Stone gives here. No teenager in the world fucking talks like this. It's been a long time since I was one, but piss off. The whole sort of mystery stuff is wasted and kind of a bit shit. They've wasted Sally Field again. They've wasted Paul Giamatti again. It's an insulting sort of building of a universe that just wastes the talent of a lead pairing that could have gone on to be something in this series. Now, the one thing I did respect was they killed the Gwen Stacy character, and I think one of the reasons...
Yeah, that was a big shock, wasn't it?
One of the reasons I came out positive was I couldn't believe they'd gone there. And it's only a few minutes before the end of the film, so you walk out thinking, Christ, that film had balls.
Especially for it to carry on in the direction the way it did.
Introducing a villain right at the end just to do that, it's all a bit shit, really. And the disjointed score and all that just speaks to a film made by committee that's trying to course correct a film that was a bit bland but didn't do a huge amount wrong. And it leaves a sort of duology that just don't feel of a piece, whereas the Maguire trilogy all feels the same filmmaking team. So that's it from me. I've talked a lot longer than I meant to, but a little bit, build up to the film, experience with the film, and what you think about the film.
Anyway, Chris, I feel we're doing the opposite now. We're kind of drowning you out. So yes, get on that soapbox.
Okay.
Tell us what you think.
My feelings. I mean, yeah, everything that Dave says, I don't actually disagree with. However, I've always had a little bit of defensive of this film. I think I always tend to be a bit of a contrarian when it comes to films at times. I tend to sort of like defend or stick up for films that usually get a bit of a kicking, and tend to sort of like be a bit lukewarm on the films that get like just a ton of praise no matter what. So I've all and similar to Dave, I had a first viewing which was great. I really enjoyed my time with it. Not perfect, but I think in terms of solid fun and entertainment wise, it hit the spot. And my opinion of it hasn't really changed. Though I completely understand why people don't like it as much. There are some odd choices here. The tone is, while I think is
schizophrenic.
I think, well, compared to last week, I think this feels more Spider-Man in terms of like the color palette and just a sense of like comic book fun. But at the same time, they do make odd choices. Like there's one character, one of the minor ones, who's the actor. He usually plays like a lot of bad guy roles. Martin Koskis, I think how you pronounce that name.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, he's.
He plays a character who is.
I forgot he was in this.
Yeah, he normally plays a character who is like a scientist, but is in the comics a female character. Now, no, that's fine to sort of reverse genders, whatnot. I don't think it makes much of a difference. But they've kind of like kept that so comic booky, and he kind of plays it almost as if he is the woman. It's really weird. He almost looks like he's got lipstick on. It's
a little bit camp. The accent is ridiculously over the top, and it leaves you struggling for the tone of this because all of the love relationship stuff in it, all the love relationship stuff in this is really earnest.
Yeah, and it's just little things like that. I think that's a bit odd. Electro is a bit very Dwayne Dibley, but though at the same time, I kind of, in some ways, it feels a little bit again like doing a bit of sympathetic villain thing, but he kind of goes all just I'm just flat out just evil, which I suppose there are things in there. He's like he's got a little bit of a violent streak in him before he has his accident. Kind of, he's a little bit unhinged, but again, it's just a little bit too comic booky at times. I think Dave is right when it says it just feels like it's made by committee. I think the plans.
Yeah, I would tend to agree.
They had this roadmap on the desk. I mean, Felicity Jones is in this film, but I forgot to mention her.
I mean,
she's playing Felicia Hardy, who would be Black Cat if they'd carried on.
Great casting as well. You think?
Yeah.
Oh, you look at that thing.
For the way the series went, this film has a really good cast. It's a shame that they didn't carry on that journey, on that roadmap, as you say, and decided to decided on a reboot.
It's great casting, but at the same time, it's you just do feel like where you're going. I mean, when you hear like the plans they were trying to introduce like a Sinister Six movie, it's like, well, how would that work out? Like, how are you gonna do like, and I think they still want to do a Venom one as well, didn't they? But which they ended up doing. But then you hear the plans of what was going to be in the next film, and it was going to involve Peter bringing like finding a way to bring back dead people back to life. So he would have brought back Gwen and her father and things like that. And I'm thinking that sounds like such a huge misstep. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, what I will say is just a very quick aside and interjection is that I don't want to knock comic books because I've really enjoyed a lot of them, but with any long-running series where you've got to keep sort of in a permanent act 2 almost, when you read a character history on almost any character in comic book history, it gets really batshit after a while because they've just got to fill so much with stories, and
yeah, you're gonna get some sort of retconning and everything.
But they've probably done stuff equally daft in the comic books over the years.
Yeah, but in terms of the context of where this series would be, it just would seem like too much. In the comics, you probably get away with it, especially like with years upon years of stories.
Well, not only that, you're only going to be 2 films and maybe 3 or 4 years on from like gritty Dark Knighty reboot of this universe.
And you kind of have to think, well, there's your comic book audience or your fan base, which might play to more, but then you got to think about the general audience and how that translates onto film, and that doesn't necessarily translate very well, not in this context anyway. It just seems a bit.
Well, look at how slowly this Marvel Cinematic Universe has been circling the idea of the multiverse.
Yeah,
we know we're going to get it, but you just got to be a bit more careful with mainstream audiences. If you go straight to these kind of high concept but strangely difficult to grasp ideas, I mean, I don't find multiverse that hard, but stick it on for a general audience and it's going to confuse people. And it'll feel rushed as well.
It feels a bit too much too soon as well, I think, even if...
Well, we want a Sinister Six movie like 2 years before the third Spider-Man film. It's almost like you want your cake and eat it. You're not sure this film's done that well, so you want to sideline Andrew Garfield, but you want to keep building the universe he's part of.
I mean, my guess is they probably want to introduce some more villains for him to fight in the next film. If it's going to be him versus Sinister Six, I imagine. But then doing a Sinister Six film before that oversteps the problem having to introduce them all in the third film.
I like films to at least feel... It's okay when they're following directly on from a previous film, but I just think when films just have a load of threads that don't suit the film they're part of, they are literally just doing spade work for something else. I just think it diminishes the film. So when you've got him walking down the corridor past like Doc Ock's arms and the Vulture's wings and stuff like that, that doesn't serve any real purpose in this film. So all you're doing is cheapening this film because you're diminishing it as just one part of a much larger whole.
And yeah, again, also the stuff with Peter and his parents, like I'm not sure why we're seeing like a fight on an airplane as the first scene. Like, what does that tell us? Like, relatively, other than he managed to upload something, which I'm not sure you can do on an airplane. Like, but
well, not only that, this film's 2014. This is before he hands over.
Yeah.
What? How old was Peter at this point? 4, 5?
Not sure. But
yeah, very little.
Well, put it this way, that puts that back in about 2002. This is ludicrously too far ahead in technology. And that is an Orsi and Kurtzman thing. I'm sorry to sound like a broken fucking record, but they just wave away things that don't work or fit. They just wave away. It's like, oh, don't worry about it. And it's like, no, at the point when you were breaking this script, somebody should have said, that doesn't work.
It's like they've got a timeline that if it doesn't fit, they're like, yeah, it's fine. And it's like, no, it's not. These details really matter.
It's because they're shit.
Yeah, it's
not a fan.
It's just one of those things, and it's like, oh, okay, I get that they're trying to like finish also like a plot which they've introduced in the last film, which is probably something they shouldn't have even bothered with in the first place. But still,
exactly.
Like they continue on, and it kind of makes sense.
Well, I will say that in their defence, they've been dropped this dangling thread to do something with.
Yeah, but I mean, it'd be okay, fine. But again, it's like there's they've thought about introducing a MJ as well in here, which, to be fair,
that would have been too much.
For what I understand is, I think those scenes are purely just like a few conversations, like just short, just like, oh, neighbour, that kind of thing. Nothing like too plotty. Just like introduce someone for the next film, which they ended up dropping. But there was like a scene where the deleted scene where Peter's father turns up at Gwen's funeral, well at the graveyard.
Yeah, I saw that.
And you think so. That was another thing. They actually resurrect his father. No,
it's just you've got no vision. You don't know what you're doing. You're just trying to. I think particularly with these writers, but I think it's modern filmmaking. It's a flaw of relatively recent modern filmmaking that the tease is much more important than the answer. And I think I've said this in various series we've done that. Sometimes I feel when these teasers are being set up, the writers and director don't actually know the answer themselves.
Well, they're overthinking it, aren't they? Every step of the way. It's a shame because when you look at Spider-Man's Rose Gallery or all the villains, you could have like that's loads of films you could do, loads. Yeah, it's like you don't have to overcomplicate. Just have like, all right, who are we doing next week? Oh, we'll do Scorpion. Scorpion and Vulture or whoever. Do you know what I mean? You could. There's so much you could do, like a film every year or 2 years, and be relatively competitive with Marvel. And you got a relatively good Spider-Man here. He's out of school, so that the age thing doesn't look that too problematic.
It's not as bad. It's not as big a deal.
Yeah. You've got a good lead in this film, which obviously, if you keep with the comics, she's killed off, but that you got like a good chemistry, so it actually matters. You feel that. You feel sad. It has some weight to it. And if you nail like a decent MJ following that, then you're onto a winner. Do you know what I mean? There's so many things you could do. And
they cast Shailene Woodley, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
As MJ. Now, this got a bit ugly on social media because they cast her, and the usual complaint about she's not a knockout, and Mary Jane Watson is meant to be a knockout.
It caused quite a lot of backlash, didn't it? So.
Well, the problem is people can't express that without being nasty or actually insulting her looks, and I fell somewhere down the middle of thinking, actually, they're right. She's not appropriate casting for Mary Jane Watson, but there's absolutely no need to insult her. It's one
of those things, isn't it? It's like how to say it in a kind of
that was the only alarm
way, and it's just like
that's the only alarm bell though that they said they'd cut all her scenes, and when I went to see the film, I couldn't see where those scenes would have gone, and I just thought, made by committee. They just like, can we get Mary Jane Watson in there somewhere? Well, we got a few scenes at the for argument's sake, because I've not seen the deleted scenes, but for argument's sake, well, we've got their graduation. Let's have her at that. Go over and wish Peter well or congratulate him. You know what I mean?
Shoehorn her in.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in the comics, like MJ was teased anyway, so you never actually saw her until like the blind date, so to speak. So if you were smart about it, you would just have like May mention MJ. So things aren't working out with Gwen. Why don't you how about you see that nice girl Mary Jane or whatever? You know what I mean? Just a few lines of dialogue. That's all. Don't have to cast anyone just yet. I mean, hell, don't you have like Jameson in this film? He is mentioned.
Well, he's on an email, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think it's around the time that he finds out Norman Osborn's dead. So I'm actually typing a little reply to Becca because she's just said on one of Charlie's feeds about the Two-Face episode of the animated series.
Yeah, I need to see those. I don't think I've ever seen any of those Batman ones.
That's a two-parter, and I watched.
Sorry about that.
I watched it last week. It's great.
He gives a really sad. Batman has a really sort of sad, like sort of performance in that, doesn't he? What's the guy's name?
Well, yeah, because they're really good.
His heart kind of breaks, doesn't it? It's like Harvey.
Yeah, but not only that, Harvey Dent's like fighting a psychological issue that he's trying so hard to beat. It's really good. Anyway, back to this film.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was my fault. I interjected because I was like typing and trying to concentrate on two things at once, which I try not to do. What about you, Becca, with this film?
I don't know. I thought I said that a few minutes ago because I felt bad.
Well, you kind of just went like you didn't like it, but
Bottom line, I don't like it. Yeah, no, I'm going to see this one at the cinema. But yeah, I think I may have seen it in 3D, which probably accounted for, because a lot of this film takes place at night or in darkness, and obviously with the 3D you do get 30% light loss, and you can't see shit. But obviously you've got Electro on the scene. But no, I think, yeah, upon release I didn't rate this film very highly. I kind of thought, oh, this is quite, for me it's kind of along the lines of the previous Spider sequel. And I mean, I thought Andrew Garfield was fine. He could do no wrong at the time. Obviously, it was great chemistry with Emma Stone, definitely, and it was such a shock and a real shame that they decided to kill her off at the end, especially with the route that the series was to take with the reboot a few years later. Yeah, I would agree that Sally Field and especially Paul Giamatti, who's just like comedy legend, and you don't see them as it's like we said last week. Sally Field's job is to sit in the kitchen and look sad. There's
a bit of nursing here, but
yeah, she does a little bit of work, definitely. Yeah. I think there's a scene which is a callback to one of her previous Hollywood roles.
Is it the scene where Pierce Brosnan comes in and tries to flirt with her?
Drive-by fruiting. Oh, I wish that again today. That was so much fun. Dear.
What, Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah, for a laugh. It was good fun.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you got to see it! Oh my gosh!
Well, because there was a spell. We've talked about this on podcast before.
You have to see it, Dave.
There was a spell when I avoided Robin Williams films because he made quite a lot of cheesy shit. I love Robin Williams, and as a straight actor, he was really good. But he just made stuff like Patch Adams and Flubber and films that just weren't very good. But and I always avoided it because I saw clips of Mrs. Doubtfire. I thought it was all right, but I haven't seen it.
There are some cheesy bits as you would imagine, but it is really funny, especially hilarious.
It could be on Disney Plus. I'm not sure.
Probably might be, but anyway, no, it was a good laugh.
I'll find it.
It's 50% a serious film as well. It's.
Yeah, it's really serious. Because at the end of the day, it's about a father trying to gain access to his kids, and he wants to see his kids, and he just goes a really creative route in which to do it. So, but I don't know how it would play with today's audiences. That's the only thing.
It is on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I'll have a look at that then, promise.
Read that out. I think it's based on a French film that I've not seen.
You're not getting confused with The Birdcage, are you? Because that's a
that's based on a French.
That's a Robin Williams.
Yeah, the Casual for definitely. Next, I did that for my undergrad dissertation. Both are really good. So it's one of those instances where I would say like the English remakers. I mean, the French original is a classic, but I would say like the English remake is slightly better and a little bit funnier.
Okay.
But anyway, that's another by the by. Yeah, so Sally Field and Paul Giamatti criminally underused. I did find the relationship between Electro and Goblin Jr. I don't know, a bit culturally insensitive, but that's just kind of watching it through a modern lens. Obviously, times moved on since 2014. What else? Stanley cameo, not as great as last week, but still good.
What was it?
I think it's at the graduation ceremony.
Yeah. I know
that guy.
I didn't like that.
No, it was a bit bland. Last week's was the absolute best, I think, for my money. But yeah, no, I would say the same as you, Dave. Pretty much the kind of it is given the Kurtzman and Naughty kind of treatment, I guess. You just think, oh no, you kind of see their names and you think, oh dear, and you know exactly what you're letting yourself in for.
It's the nodding and winking as well.
Yeah, it's like we can do this nudge, wink, wink.
Well, do you remember in the first Star Trek film where they've got to have Bones tell us why he's called Bones, and the reason he gives is totally not the fucking right one, but it's
the reason that they think
they are masturbating themselves silly over the fucking 60s Spider-Man theme, and it's getting really tired 5 films in. His phone ringtone is the Spider-Man music.
Is the
we hear that several times. Then towards the end of the film, he plays Incy Wincy Spider in that.
Yeah, it's like what?
Thing. And I just think, like, can someone slap these guys? They're not funny.
I think they're being clever, but
they're clever and funny, and they're neither. It pisses me off.
Country going, what are you doing?
I mean, Orsie's quite a reprehensible human being anyway, but Alex Kurtzman is currently fucking up Star Trek on TV, which is really pissing me off. Keep these twats away from things I like, please.
Shouldn't be allowed in Hollywood. No. Apart from that, I like the film. Some visuals are quite good. Marked improvement, I think. I think what else? Yeah, I don't know. I did have some problems with the relationship between Electro and, I'm going to call him Goblin Jr. because I can't remember his name. Dane DeHaan, and that's it. And some of his makeup did look a little bit dodgy towards the end. But I thought the visuals with Electro, I thought were really impressive, and I like when he speaks, he's obviously got kind of, I don't know what you call it. It sounds like sort of feedback almost, like a real sort of like bassy tone to his voice, like feedback, I guess. That's what I can say, really. I just didn't have a good time with it. I kind of thought, I tried to go in with an open mind. Obviously, Jamie Foxx winning an Oscar a few years before, but I didn't enjoy, and it's too long, too busy, too much going on. Can't be done with it. So I'm sorry, it's very superficial. But just
Electro's powers allow him to make pants as well.
Yeah, he can kind of make his little digital thing on his head, like
skills, false modesty.
Dear, oh dear.
But to be honest, despite its flaws, I kind of still enjoy it. I never really get bored of it. I always kind of enjoy my time with it. I think it's largely just down to, seeing Spider-Man quip, the way,
that was good.
Garfield.
I liked that. I really enjoyed the first sequence of the film for that very reason, because it's like, finally, we'd had such a whiny take on it first time round. It's like, he's actually kind of enjoying this, and,
refers to himself as web-haired and kind of like having for being a bit cocky, but it's also like doing like little things like the stuff with kid where he's like takes the time out to sort of like stick up for him against a bunch of bullies, and then like be like, oh wow, you've made this, that's really good, I'll walk you home,
and fix
stuff
it with
like
him
that,
and walk him home.
It's just like,
it's not about it. Like I say, it's not Batman and Robin. It's Batman Forever at worst. Because it is really cartoony in places, but there's things about it I like, and I just felt a little bit sorry for Andrew Garfield at the end of this, because he never got a third film. And
no, I kind of thought he was. I mean, he's got kind of youthful looks anyway. I thought, in the first film he did kind of look as if he could be sort of 17, 18, but I felt
not to us he didn't. But...
No, not to you guys, but to me he did. But a couple of years on, I kind of thought, oh, actually no, maybe he's starting to look a little bit too old. Well, not too old, but perhaps he's kind of pushing the limits of what you could look like. But he's still a really good actor, and I kind of thought, well, maybe he's pushing it a little bit. But hey ho.
Shall we discuss this film sequentially first?
That's a bit ageist, isn't it?
Not really. If someone's meant to be a teenager and they're 47, then
like
it's
me,
not ageist to point out they're not
17, 18-year-old. No.
Yeah. Shall we discuss this film sequentially?
Yeah, so we basically we start off with a bit of a recap from Richard Parker's perspective.
Previously.
Yeah, he's like leaving like a message on his computer, and then he destroys like a load of spiders, and he comes home and finds his place ransacked, and he leaves Peter with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and he leaves for a plane. He's uploading a file which he can't do in the air.
But carry on.
A suspicious
and even
man.
If you could, in this era, it would have taken about 4 years.
I'm not sure what he's uploaded it to anyway. But anyway,
well, he's uploaded it to a specific terminal. It's very sketchy, the technology of this. But fair enough. Okay, that's what he's doing.
It is one of those things where you kind of question, like, why is the scene even here? That this could be a file that is. This is like what Peter actually watches later on in that kind of underground. Yes. That could just be there anyway, left there.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need this scene, really, at all.
We don't need this at all. Not at all. And what are you trying to prove to us? Because Richard goes all like, forlorn action hero here. It's like, you're a scientist. Fuck off. This is stupid. I didn't care.
I mean, it's fine as an action scene, but again, it just leaves you thinking, is there a reason for this? But anyway.
Yeah.
Has a fight. Obviously the plane goes down, and that's what we always see. And then we start with Spider-Man swinging through the city.
Yeah, it starts with him sort of falling through the air. They've made a design decision on this suit. I don't know if it's Garfield's build or just a decision. The suit isn't actually skin tight. It billows around a bit in the sort of breeze. Not off-puttingly so. It's okay. But as I say, if you go and look up the original sort of Ultimate Spider-Man from like around 2000, I think it was. Might be before that. He's got really big bug eyes in that. And it's kind of those eyes sort of on the Maguire suit, but a little bit brighter and a little bit less tight-fitting. And it's pretty well shot, this. It is pretty well shot, him sort of swinging around and that. Again, CG's moved on, and they've actually thrown a bit of money at this one, and yeah, this is all very fun.
It looks brighter. I mean, yeah. it will do because it's all shot in day. It's not night.
It is, yeah. Now, what's he doing? The Rhino's doing something.
Yeah,
but he's not the Rhino at this point.
Yeah,
it's
so
a
he's
bald guy with a tattoo across his forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm presuming he's stealing that truck.
Yeah, so him and a few other guys are stealing some plutonium from Oscorp.
Right. Well, they
so
the flux capacitor, do they?
Yes.
I was going to say, we've seen this before.
Yes. Yeah. You've got these like sort of little kind of orange tube things, and yeah, it's kind of a fun scene because it's as vehicles crash, the things go flying around. They have to be extra sensitive in case they explode. So Spider-Man's like sort of balancing everything, and
yeah, I've only got one slight complaint with it. It's very slightly too long, but I don't remember thinking that at the time. I thought it on rewatch, so perhaps it is one of those. It's all right the first time. He prevents Max. What's he called? Max Dillon, basically Electro.
Yeah, he saves Max Dillon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
instantly falls in love with him.
Yes, because he is someone who is a bit of a weird. He kind of, as Becca said, he kind of talks to himself, but he kind of like is constantly wanting to be seen. He's like someone who is constantly neglected and wants attention.
Yeah, he kind of wants to be somebody.
Though. So, like, when Spider-Man comes on, oh, you're my guy, doing that Spider-Man thing, where he's dead popular with everyone, so he's a bit, oh, hey, I need you out there, come on, and then he's like, oh, you know my name, because he's read his name badge.
I thought that, I don't know too much about the comic book character, I must say.
No.
But this struck me as really weak as motivation. He basically becomes hateful towards Spider-Man because Spider-Man's more popular than him and doesn't remember him later, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it is teased that he's unhinged later on, isn't it? Because he has that thing with Smythe, and he gets himself. So he is one of that, like, a bit of a weird obsessive, type. But yeah, apparently they were going for a more realistic approach, which is.
Well, judging by his costume design, that's not realistic at all.
No.
Pantomime.
Maybe that's what they were going for, I don't know.
Okay, so what else? Phones rings and it's the 60s Spider-Man thing again. Gwen's at the
graduation.
Their high school graduation, where she gives a ridiculously long and over-wordy, meaningless load of bollocks as a speech.
Mm.
This is really random. This might sound really stupid.
Sorry?
I probably got this wrong, but like at the speech, do they play Land of Hope and Glory?
I don't know. I don't.
I was just trying to think. It just they played a piece of music, and I thought, why are they playing that? But then I didn't.
I don't remember what it was.
Like
now.
my experience of the American college system is very limited, and obviously I don't know what they would play like at Ivy League sort of graduations, for example. But it jumped out with me.
School.
High school even definitely. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that kind of world, but that kind of I thought, hold on a minute, is that Land of Hope and Glory? I was like, why are they playing that? So yeah, if you're from the States or if you've graduated from high school or college or university, whatever from that area, let us know. I felt that was particularly strange. It just jumped out at me. Why are they playing that?
Strange. She gets up to give a speech, and it's one of those. It's an Orsi and Kurtzman special where every line, every single line of it is meant to sound meaningful and profound, and none of it isn't. And Emma Stone, bless her, does a really good job with it because she's just good, but it is utter bollocks they've got her talking. And it's just one of those things that I just hate. There's a smugness to the writing. That's what I don't like, that you hear these things and I'm thinking, you honestly think this sounds clever? It's so self-satisfied.
Like, yeah, you can sort of feel like the speech itself, the writer's thinking, yeah, this is really inspiring. We've written something really sort of...
And it's utter horseshit. So anyway... I
must admit, I can't even remember a single word she even says.
Oh, I tried to remember it yesterday. It's stuff about, their experiences together, and then it's on about moving forward and being yourself and holding on, and times will happen when you feel like this, and it's just offensively poor. And I just feel sorry for Emma Stone because she's got a camera slammed right in her, well, not in her face, it's a mid shot, but the camera's unflinchingly on her while she has to deliver this. I'm sure there are plenty of teenagers out there who think they are profound when they're not. I think it goes with the age to some degree, but this is written by men shooting towards middle age who think that they have something to say in their writing and never ever have.
So big fans then.
Yeah, I'll try not to do 2 hours of it, but yeah, I don't like them.
No.
Peter is getting images of Captain Stacy.
Yeah.
It's a guilt trip.
Yeah, it's guilty conscience.
He swings in eventually and collects his graduation, and when they're all sort of stood round chatting and photos and all that nonsense afterwards, he actually sees Captain Stacy with the family, even though he's not. He's just having images of them. While he was on the street, he saw him in like a squad car, which he wasn't, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's subdued like Rhino, and Rhino's arrested and all the rest of it. He's not Rhino at this stage. What else do we want to say? He breaks.
Let's move on to the next scene.
Well, yeah, it's just Gwen.
They go out that evening.
Yeah, Gwen invites them to dim sum, and there's also like it's picking up from the last film where he's like made a promise but can't really keep it, but is conflicted about it. So he's there circling outside a dim sum place.
Yeah,
and Gwen's sort of getting like pissed off. She said like, we've done this time and time again. Yeah. This time I'm ending it.
They've had various splits in the time we've missed between films. I think in that he's struggling with the guilt. I like that. I think that's a good idea because we felt his flip to sort of teasing a continuing a relationship at the end of the last film was a bit tone deaf to the material. He'd just given a dying man a promise. The fact that he would continue to have issues with it if he's a genuinely decent, honest kid is like a good idea. I as much as what's it in surface of, I don't know, but I think it's not a bad idea to have the characters go through this.
No, it's in a weird way. I don't see how else you can play it because the last film kind of hinted that, but it's a bit of an odd way to hint it because it feels like you've just introduced something and then dismissed it forthright just immediately just to get a bit more of a positive ending. So this kind of picks it up in a sort of like, I'm really weird, really conflicted about doing it. And And this also adds a bit of agency to Gwen as well, because Gwen sort of says, like, you know what, fine. I make my own. I make my own life choices, not you. I take my risks. You know, this isn't your choice; it's my choice. So, which is kind of Gwen. That happens like later on, doesn't it? But anyway,
yeah, that's echoed. I mean, there's things in the structure of it and like setup and callback that is like basic screenwriting, and they can do that. You know, they're not without any ability whatsoever, and there are things in the script that work okay. So then I think it's like a montage of stuff, isn't it? A Spidey montage. He's keeping an eye on Gwen.
Montage. Sorry.
Yes, this is a bit where he's
There's a
sort of
song
like,
in there somewhere from Team America.
He's doing Spider-Man things. You know, he's there like he stops a robber in a store where he's got a cold.
Yeah.
He's still poorly, but still fighting crime.
Yeah, he saves the kid from bullies, which is cool. And he's
I like how the little boy Jorge. I think that's quite cute. How we see him later on in the film as well. So I wonder if he's if he's given that mantle to become
cheesy as fuck.
It's very cheesy.
It's cheesy.
It is. It's cute, but it is cheesy.
Well, it is because they're always, whenever there's like a crime scene, they've always immediately set up barriers and have like all the general public stood at them watching.
Exactly, because that always happens.
That wouldn't be your first concern with a fucking
no. It's another cutscene and special.
They've done it in all of the films. They did it in the Maguire trilogy constantly.
Yeah, third film particularly, which
that was really odd.
Which really irked me. But anyway,
they even had it narrated. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, God, the worst thing you can do. Anyway, I do like the sort of Ian's just fighting crime. He's just doing other little things, like like your friendly neighbourhood. He's doing like helping people out, and which kind of reminds me similar to like what Spider-Man, Superman should be as well, to like a larger scale. But like he will take time to sort of take cats out of trees and things like that.
I don't understand when Captain America exists as an aside how they don't know how to make Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit silly, isn't it?
Dead fucking easy. But anyway, I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not saying I could write a successful film, but I know.
Be able to. I'm pretty sure you could.
I know tone and direction though, and it's not that difficult.
I'm sure you could do it.
No, I couldn't. But anyway, then what? I
think you and Chris would make a good team together with your HND and.
I think what it is, like the studios would just like sort of run us to the ground where we just go, yeah, okay, fine. They'll just be like a turgid mess.
Anyway, write that script.
I don't have any frustrated screenwriters.
You watch a lot of films, it's okay.
I really don't. Yeah, but it doesn't work like that. I watch a lot of boxing, I'd be shit at it. I don't know.
Quentin Tarantino, they got his. No.
Work like that.
No, I know.
But yeah, so we must see a bit of Max Dillon at some point round here.
Yes, can we see? Come around the corner.
Yes,
with all his piles of manuscripts and.
Yeah, well, it's the stuff he gets. He gets, so he gets caught by May. He finds his dad old briefcase. We have Max, who's a bit of a super fan, so he's there like with his birthday cake. He's singing happy birthday and he's pretending Spider-Man's talking to him. He's like, oh, you came and visited me. He's got pictures of him on his wall.
Oh, that kind of thing. I understand. All I can see is Jim Carrey here.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that. And obviously there's a bit of a circuit sausage, and he sort of like could tell straight away which one it is. Yeah. Which kind of says, oh, the man knows his circuits.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of like sort of Aunt May trained to be a nurse. There's also that as well.
Don't see the point of that, but all right.
But yeah, there's a little bit of a thing where like he's trying to do his own laundry because he's like washing his old suit, but then May for some reason doesn't want Peter to know that she's starting training as a nurse. Why, I'm not too sure, but she's like, oh no, I don't want you to. Neither of them basically want to like look inside like the laundry, which is a bit of a.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, where did that come up as a script conference? We've got to have them, like, not wanting to see each other's fucking smalls.
I mean,
it's what?
I mean, the stuff where he's like, where like she's like, but you've got soot on your face, and he goes like, oh, I was cleaning the chimney. We haven't got a chimney. He's like, what?
That is a really shit joke.
That is really bad.
I kind of liked it, but okay.
All right,
cringe.
But that's all right. But I get you mean by the like. Well, why is that keeping that a secret? Like, why would you bother?
Is there some secret shame to nursing I've never been made aware of?
Because it's like, Peter doesn't strike me as the type who would say like he'd be a bit too overprotective because she's already got a waitering job. It's like, no, I'm not having you nursing. No, it's me. I have to be the breadwinner or something. Do you know what I mean? I can't...
There wouldn't be any of that. They just wouldn't.
Anyway.
He's graduated high school in this film. I mean, what kind of breadwinner does he think he'd be? So, I've got a paper round. Fucking hell. Isn't that enough? All right, whatever.
I don't. It's never really explained, but there you are.
It just feels like, well, we haven't got enough for Sally Field to do in this film. Well, perhaps she can be training for something. I don't know about nursing. That's a good caring thing. It parallels with Spider-Man. He cares. Like, you can just almost see the thought processes, and it's all so undercooked.
They kind of mapped it out, but not as fully as we would have liked them to, I think.
Yeah. Whatever. It's just what? Then what? Where do we go?
So Max is at Oscorp, so he's like, obviously he works there. He's
bumps into Gwen.
Yeah, but bumps into Gwen's lift. She takes note of his name, and he's like, "Oh, she said my name." So it's just a bit more of a...
She must
but it also puts him on Gwen's radar. That's kind of relevant later on. It's just sort of like, oh, she just... I think it sort of lets Peter know who he is. But anyway, and then we get introduced to Harry Osborn,
who's visiting his dad, who's dying of being green.
It's not easy being green.
We don't know what.
Sorry, Chris.
You beat me to that joke. I was just about to say it's not easy being green.
It's the fact that none of this makes sense because in a minute he says something like, I never expected it to end like this. Then he says, I've been dying for 40 years. And then Harry's like, I'm running out of time, but we know this disease process takes 40 years.
Also, he plays him as well, because I'm terrible with names, I do apologise.
It's Chris Cooper.
That's it, Chris Cooper, that's it. He's a fantastic character actor.
Wasted again.
Literally, he's like in the film for seconds. And it's like, why do you even cast these people if you're not going to use them? Oh my gosh.
It's really...
Sorry.
It's terrible.
Did you not think, like, he would actually be generally good as a proper Norman Osborn as well? If he had it.
Yeah, he'd be
really
good.
The one slight complaint is he might be slightly too old for it now, in terms of the quality he gives off, but not wildly. None of this is particularly thought through, and you've introduced a character to instantly kill him off. I know it was talked about last week, but that's not good enough. So that's it. Harry is shaking, so he's got a symptom of the illness as well, and it's like, well, that's convenient. That's the first time he's ever shown a symptom, and it's on his dad's deathbed. It takes 40 years to play out, yet he's surprised by it. And in the next time we see Harry, he's desperate for an immediate cure because he's running out of time. It takes 4 decades.
Yeah, there is a weird sort of... I don't know if they mention whether it's slightly elevated with him. I don't know, but yeah, obviously he's like he's desperate to find a cure for it.
Yeah.
Basically that's what it introduced.
So he hands Harry like his research. There's like a little sort of hard drive with it on, which he's just holding on to in bed.
Yeah, because it's not like a USB, is it? It's not like you just plug it.
No.
But whatever. So Norman dies, and Harry's like, now got a ticking clock of 40 years.
Gwen gets a call from Oxford.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's any truth in this. I don't know if they have like outside sub offices in like American cities. I've got no idea. Doesn't really matter, to be honest with you.
It's possible, but yeah, I don't know. But
no, I mean we've all been to university, but none of us have been to either of the Oxford University. So I don't know if they run things.
No, I don't know.
They certainly have preferential funding over a lot of the other traditional universities.
Yeah, I don't know quite how it works. So
okay.
I've been to Oxford, but I've been to like the city.
Well, yeah, I've been to Oxford.
Yeah, but to like the Morse tour, and I've seen a show at their I've got the legal university that they have there and the law school that they have there. Where else have I been? And I've been to the prison, which is now a museum, and the courtyard is also used as a theatre space.
During your year as Batman.
Shove them in the clink.
So she could be about to go to London. Again, all these sort of half-cooked little threads. And there's going to be a memorial for Norman, but Max has got to say, BJ Novak turns up for a split.
Yeah, what the hell is he doing?
What is this film doing? Do you think it's like a little gag of theirs? Let's see what are the biggest stars we can do the least with?
Yeah, exactly. I think it must be something like that, because literally you've got kind of these really big names. Obviously, he's well known for I think the American version of The Office and generally being a comedy legend anyway.
If Brando had still been alive, do you reckon
he probably would have been in
Peter
this film.
Coffee at the
He would have been Norman, probably.
Canteen, that's it.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, he's playing Alistair Smythe as well, so that's another prominent. I mean, I mostly know him from the animated series.
Yeah,
maybe that's why they play. They did cast these big name actors, because obviously the series didn't go that way, but they were setting it up for quite a big transition. So maybe they thought, we'd cast these really prominent names as these really prominent characters, only for it to kind of fall away.
You can't use all of them in one film. You I don't know.
Well, they did.
Okay. Well, they didn't.
Tried.
That's the point.
No, I know.
Okay, so he's sent to fix a room of electric eels.
Yeah,
genetic electric eels.
And he's so invisible that when he calls through and says, "Can you deactivate the electricity here?" they're like, "Screw you, buddy! I'm going out." It's like,
yeah,
okay. So
he gets electrocuted
and bitten by a load of eels, which turns him into electricity.
Wait, yeah, turns into a bit of a crusty.
Yeah.
Initially. So then we have Harry's in his first board meeting where he says, "I'm calling the shots here." We get introduced to Felicia Hardy,
where he twirls his moustache and puts a woman he fancies in charge. This is fucking bollocks.
He does do a bit of moustache twirling, doesn't he?
Well, it's just like he couldn't be more transparently a bad guy. And yet we got to have all these sort of scenes with Peter coming up where they're all mates, which implies
which happens next.
Yeah. So yeah, they again, Andrew Garfield's level of talent sells all this. Concern for his fans.
They really hurt him. They carried the film. They really do. I think they're probably like the saving graces of this film, really, if there are any.
Yeah. So yeah, they talk about parents and all that, and girlfriends and all that sort of thing, which drops that Gwen into conversation, which will come back later. What else? What then?
You have Colin Ford's character sort of talking about the accident with Max Dillon, basically sort of hinting that they're going to use it to basically get rid of Harry.
Right.
So they're going to sort of like, oh right, well, just some accident, we'll put it on his lap and use it to oust him.
Right.
Or or at least setting it up. And that, this is why they're outside talking. Where else?
Then you get a birth of Electro scene.
Yeah, Max wakes up. He's feeding off electricity. You have Peter and Gwen have a meet up and that's when they have the bit of a flirtatious, like, "Oh, can we be friends or not?"
Ooh. Well, they won't they?
Hand job,
yeah.
maybe occasionally, something like that.
Which again, it's just like it's very sweet, very like adorable.
I say things like that were just you walk out at the end of it and go, the film can't have been that bad, because they had that really brave ending and the two leads are so good, and even their exchanges actually, I don't know if it's just their quality, but they actually seem pretty well written sequences as well. So I don't know.
Yeah. Max ends up, or Electro ends up in Times Square,
which they created all digitally. They're not there. They filmed this somewhere else in the world. But all of this was his dialogue was an issue every time he fights. Lots of wait till you see this kind of dialogue. And there's a bit in all of this where Spider-Man's wearing like a firefighter's helmet, and I'm just like, this film doesn't know what tone it wants to go for, and that's why I keep likening it to Batman Forever. Not only does he remind me of Edward Nygma, but that film had a bit of that as well, in that it was cartoony as fuck and actually a little bit cheap looking in some places. But then you had that sort of childhood trauma subplot, and it's like, well, who's this fucking aimed at? And I feel a bit like that with this. The sort of Times Square sequence is okay, but yeah.
I mean, again, I think it's mostly down to Garfield, because he's doing his usual enjoying Spider-Man, but trying to sort of act in best interest, but a little bit haphazard, because he's like, he obviously doesn't recognise Max, and he's like, oh yeah, Max was like, he probably sort of interacts with people all the time, and he's just a little bit sort of doesn't recognise him. Well, why would you anyway? But
well, he doesn't actually look like him anymore, does he? I mean, obviously there's the same facial shape.
Yeah.
But you're not immediately going to go, that's that really, really comedy dork from the street I bumped into, are you?
Yeah. But yeah, he's obviously he's noticing like sort of the electricity sort of travelling on the grids, and there's other people on that that red steps that are on Times Square. I don't know what it's called actually, but
no, nor do I, and I've been there, but I don't remember. Yeah. Okay.
But there's that going on of one of his shooting malfunctions because it just gets fried.
Overloaded.
Yeah.
Which allows for a I love science moment later on. Yeah. Okay.
And eventually sort of like washes him out with the hose, I say, with the wearing a hat. I think that's and then
that's that.
Yeah, and then sort of Peter re-looks at his father's briefcase, tries to put things together, and sort of and then tries to figure out, looking at researching batteries and things like that. With like how to sort of overcome getting electrically fried, and how does Harry sort of finds out about he tries to find out where Spider-Man is, doesn't he? So he must have sort of like figured out how to look at the research and say what that is something to do with like
it's really on the nose, because he said something about the genetic. This is where it reminded me of the Ang Lee Hulk, that it's on one of Richard's videos that nobody but my bloodline can use it, which effectively tells him who it is as well. But he hasn't twigged that bit yet. But I think
it's just because he knows Oscorp you're doing something with spiders, and there's a guy who's got spider powers. Yeah. So he's like, well, obviously that's got to be resulted in Spider-Man, i.e. Spider-Man's got like some sort of missing puzzle to this. i.e. he's had the serum and is fine, so I need his blood to experiment with. And which Peter doesn't want to give because he thinks, rightly so, that it's like, well, it might be closely linked to only me. It's not always, it could easily backfire.
Yeah, I don't know this is safe.
Yeah.
you know, I got bitten and I'm all right, but you don't know. But that's it, and so you end up with him like smashing the place up and screaming towards Peter, because Spider-Man does swing in and obviously speak to him to say no. Anything else on that?
Not much. So Gwen finds out about what happened with Max. That basically sort of like what Oscorp are doing. They're basically covering it up. And you have that scene where like Peter gets her out of trouble.
Yeah.
And then Harry meets Gwen in the lift. So he's put 2 and 2 there.
Yeah, that's a bit I thought that scene was a bit creepy though, because like she gets in the lift and then all of a sudden turns around and there's Harry lurking in the corner. It's like, how did you get there? I just found that scene a bit creepy. But I think the whole idea is he's meant to come off as a little bit creepy, but I just felt a bit like, oh, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we have like the experiments with Electro. What else?
Though that is really over the top as well, because not only is the guy doing the experiments really cartoony, but it is just flat out cruelty.
Yeah, I found that scene personally quite difficult to watch. Actually, I think I winced at the cinema and I winced here as well. I sort of had to look away a little bit, considering it would have been like a 12A really, or something. Or...
It's not really rinse-inducing. It's just
I was a
little bit like,
fair enough.
Really,
but it's just so flat out camp. It's weird because it's like he's playing the character as broadly as the comic book depiction is, as far as I'm aware of.
Yeah, that's why maybe winced.
Yeah, he's like, they've changed genders, and he's like playing it out. It just comes off as really oddly, just a bit kind of out there.
But you've got a film that's got a central love story in it, which they go out of their way to make feel real and tender, but with the troubles of your teen years, where I mean, he's got the extra wrinkle of being Spider-Man, but where you don't know what you want, and you do go a bit back and forth, and you hurt people because you're not experienced in.
And the destiny of going to higher education. If she goes to Oxford, then what's that do? Do you know what I mean? It's,
So you've got all that, and then the rest of it is unbelievably cartoonish.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? We have the sort of stuff where Spider-Man visits Harry. Peter sees Gwen before she has her interview. It's a bit rambly, but wishes her good luck in the end. Where do we go? Yes. So Peter finds like sort of tokens on his calculator. After he gets like frustrated, putting his piece together, he can't like sort of put it together.
This is all needlessly complex, but
yeah,
all right, whatever. I just think there's so much in the way these scripts are written by this pairing of like, aren't we being clever here? And it's like, no, you're needlessly iterating a load of bullshit we don't need. But whatever, they're trying to sort of move on this mystery that was launched in the last film. How much there is a roadmap, we'll never know now, whether they were following on from some big story or whether they had to just watch the first film and go, well, let's do this with it then.
It probably would have second guessed everything again. That's my feeling. But anyway, so it's like he finds it's on the old train station.
Yeah.
Felicia tells Harry in that scene that about there was venom extracted downstairs. And
that's convenient.
Yeah. And then looking through the research, he finds out about what's happening with Electro, and then pretty much is like ousted from the company from there on in.
Yeah. And he goes to get Electro out, basically.
Yeah. So
we're one step away from we're not so different, you and I.
Well, yeah, it's a bit similar, isn't it?
We'll get to that. So yes, this is where
you're not so different, you and I. Scene.
Peter finds like the secret laboratory that's not been used for like God knows how long, for a decade or so.
Yeah,
and is with the video of his dad,
which immediately fires up with download complete. It's like,
yeah, that was so
he's
weird.
literally been sent from a plane to that terminal, and it was on. It's just gone to a screensaver, and it's just been there.
And it's underground. Like, what? How?
It doesn't even have to boot it up.
I mean, they should have just cut all this out and just kept in the deleted scene where he turns out to be alive and tells him. That's really what they should. Yeah. That probably would be more plausible.
You're probably right.
Yeah. How did you survive the plane crash, Dad? And as he takes an intake of breath, credits, because we've done it.
Well, I happened to come across a spare parachute, son.
Yeah, brilliant. What about Mum? No. Anyway. Brilliant. All right, whatever. So Peter now knows what he is. The next bit is what do we go to next?
This is where like Harry Osborn tries to break out Max. So he goes to the facility. He just sort of takes on Gazi quite easily. Says he needs him, and which is kind of weird because Electro just seems to sort of like, well, that's all he needs. He just needs to be told that someone needs him, and he's like, all right, fine, well, I'll just get out then.
So if you can do that,
I know.
I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Because like, as far as I'm aware of, like, he didn't sort of like press anything to sort of
no, he didn't. His evil was all like fueled by his lack of like attention, and now his evil's going to be fueled by some attention. Fucking bollocks! But he breaks out anyway.
Yeah, with
his like, boxer shorts handy.
He's there being tortured, and he's just like, oh, he could have got out any time then, really, couldn't he?
Yes.
So about being tortured wasn't enough incentive for him to sort of like.
Yeah, he's got to get angry enough to sort of tap into it. It's almost like making him Hulk out, effectively.
Yeah.
It's like, what, you weren't angry when you were being tortured then? You were just sad. Whatever.
And yeah, so so he sort of I'm trying to find out where I am with here. Yeah, so he basically sort of breaks him out, and he kind of kills one of the security guys.
Yeah.
And goes to Colin for saying, take me to the laboratory. He says no. Electro shocks him and then revives him, and then Harry's now got a gun pointing to him and says like, right, fine, I'm done with you now. So all you need was just put a gun against it. That's all you like. I'm not quite sure you actually quite needed Electro, to be honest with you.
I keep saying whatever, and I just think that's what the writers do, because there's two of them, and if two people talk about a film long enough, one will point out something the other one didn't think of, which will lead the other person to think of something else the first person hasn't thought of, and that's how those conversations go. It's like when we talked about the man with the golden gun. It had never occurred to me, don't they already have a bullet? And as soon as you said that, I riffed on it for about 5 minutes because it just opened up a completely new way of thinking. One of the two of them surely would say, yeah, but couldn't we just? And the other one just goes, oh, well, whatever.
It's like, well, we have to have a team up, but then they have
to
like.
That's not a captain's oath report, Roberto. Oh, whatever.
Yeah, so he said like the grid's all yours, so you just get that's it. So he just takes him down with a gun. I mean, there's no sort of sense of that Common Four's going to actually comply with anything.
Yeah, brilliant. Whatever.
So he takes him down. Sort of Questy gives him like the serum, which he does, and then is like, and he runs off, and while he starts hulking out, going all crazy. Yeah. Meanwhile, Spider-Man writes a lovely note for Gwen on the Manhattan Bridge.
Yeah.
Or Brooklyn? No, I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge, isn't it?
I can't remember. I do know the difference, but I can't remember which one.
I was going to say, I think, didn't you go there on your last New York trip?
I think it's...
I would say it's the Brooklyn Bridge as well, because I think I've been there last time. Well, I went in 2009. But...
it's kind of both, because he writes a note on one, and and picks her up, and they talk on top of the other. So I can't remember which one it is on top of my head, but yeah. And basically says, right, well, I guess I'm going to England, which I can't imagine Spider-Man being in Oxford.
No.
Not a lot less swinging capabilities, I would have thought, but
yeah,
you can't really do so much swinging from those dreaming spires, can you?
If you can comment on the Oxford swinging scene, write to us at expectustotalk@gmail.com.
I'm not quite sure. Diaries for that one. I'm not quite sure that's quite the same swinging.
No, it's not the swinging you're on about.
Oh, hang on, that's got another meaning, hasn't it?
Shit.
Well, write to us about that as well, because
they're swinging and they're swinging.
Do with reading a bit of filth. If you're in any other British city and are involved in swinging, write to us at expectustotalk@gmail.com. We don't want to get involved. We just want to read some filth.
Has anybody ever written to us? No.
Yes, they have. Loads of people have written to us.
About swinging in Oxford? Oh, okay.
No, we've never asked that before, have we? We can make it a regular request if you like. Anyway.
So Electro is gone to that big, massive electrical source, clean energy sort of source. So I think it was like that was to do with like mutated eels.
Bay's Incy Wincy Spider. In the interim, Gwen and Peter have been working on trying to improve the sort of resistance to electricity in the web shooters.
Yeah, she says, "Have you thought about magnetism?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, she's what Chip didn't think about."
Yeah, and then they've solved it.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Dave's getting tired of this already. So
go on.
I think we all are.
So he goes to, basically fights Electro.
Right. And I don't really want to say much about that because it's boring as fuck. But yeah, there's a fight.
Yeah. Well, the only thing to sort of say is eventually the plan is what has essentially what Peter's been trying to do initially with the batteries is that just blow it up.
Yeah.
It's like, but then he's like, oh, hang on, why don't we just do that but reverse? So that's essentially it. With the help of Gwen.
Yeah.
And then Green Goblin shows up. Or the new Green Goblin.
This is just so rushed. Green Goblin turns up. I don't know what to think because I'm not sure there's a way to stylize a Green Goblin character that gives you that sort of goblin-y, otherworldly look, but still looks good live action. This certainly isn't it. But I don't know that I want to ridicule it too much because I guess they've had a go at doing something.
Yeah, I mean, there was like a sense, with Norman Osborn and his illness, and he kind of like had the green skin but with like the purple under his eyes and kind of thing, which would make sense because if it was like bloodshot under his eyes, it would come off purpley if he had green or gangrene looking skin, and his like fingernails were overgrown and it looked all kind of like goblinish. So there is an attempt at something new, and I don't know what else you would do other than.
No, I don't like the look, but I don't know how you do it better. I think the hairstyle's the biggest problem, but I'm willing to let that go. I just feel like this is barely better than the way you used Venom in the third film, in that this has been left so late and he turns up and does something heinous almost straight away, and then that's end of the story, really.
Yeah, so
there's a big fight. He takes Gwen, and then there's a bit of a fight over her, and then she falls, and Peter holds onto her.
It does happen in a clock to represent time ticking away.
Yeah,
like everything's all like all on clogs and everything, and things like that.
Not only that, the actual mechanisms are sort of cutting the ropes and things like that because it's between them and things like that. The Goblin's very giggly, very like which you get with villains. But there you go.
The web that tries to catch you, does catch you, but it's a bit late.
Well, he catches her with one, that gets caught. He then dives after her, fires a web. That's all quite well shot. Gets a web onto her, but by the time it sort of slows her descent,
She smacks her head on the floor.
She smacks her head on the floor. And I just couldn't believe they'd gone there. This was almost, this was 70% of why I was more positive about this film on the first viewing. I couldn't believe they'd done it.
Yeah. I mean, I admit on first viewing, I was touch and go whether they actually would. I mean, I was expecting they would because you knew.
Well, I know what Gwen's story is, but this is Emma Stone with a 3-film contract. You've got a bit of artistic license to check these things out, use comic book audiences' knowledge to sort of bait and switch. And I wasn't convinced they'd go there. And when they did go there, it wasn't even that she died, but that head smack on the floor. I mean, it's a PG-13, so it's not going to be bloody or graphic, but it's quite hard hitting, literally and figuratively. So I have to say, I don't like this act of the film. I don't really like the Electro stuff. The Goblin does turn up out of nowhere. I know they've built it up a little bit, but to kill it, to bring him in his final form and have him do that within a couple of minutes is all a bit rushed.
It does seem very rushed. I mean, it's similar to last week. You've got too many villains, and they do sort of form this pact, which seems again very underserved. But yeah, it just seems like to have them all in. I think his outfit's quite complex, but it would have been nice to have like more time with him. You don't really feel like any sympathy for him at all. You think he's dying, so what? And I would agree with you, Dave. It does feel very rushed and very poorly thought out. But
the shot itself is great. Where Gwen dies, it's like not only did they go there, but they didn't really pull the punch either, given that it's a PG-13. So, it sort of got a thumbs up on the basis of that from me, almost. And again, there are varying qualities of crying you can do on screen, evidently, because a heartbroken Andrew Garfield here got me first time. I don't think I cried, but I genuinely felt it because I was moved. I was in a bit of shock that they'd done it.
Yeah, a crying Andrew Garfield is better than a crying Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, and also we believe this relationship. If they killed Mary Jane, I'd have probably been swinging from the fucking rafters of joy, because that relationship was obnoxious. So I was really stunned by all this. I think we sort of belabor what comes next, because we have him at the funeral, and then we have him sort of stood in the courtyard, in the graveyard season after season. But there you go. What else do we want to say? So
he's stopped being Spider-Man for a bit. May... Pretty much says the sort of same thing that May says in Spider-Man 2, which is like, where's Spider-Man gone? It's
I believe in a hero.
That is pretty much what it sounds like.
It is pretty much sort of similar sort of thing. It's like, I'm wondering where he's gone. We sure could do with him right now.
Yeah.
And then he puts on the USB and watches Gwen's speech.
And vomits, because it's fucking dreadful.
Meanwhile, the gentleman, the mysterious guy from last week, sees Harry. And Harry's like, you're looking at best. It's like, it comes and goes.
Well, that's handy.
And then they start initiating like a sort of a plan to sort of like, I want a team, want to keep it simple. To do
what?
Well, we've got a first candidate. He's eager, and it's the Russian guy.
But to do what?
To cause havoc. I don't know.
Generally be a nuisance.
All right.
Stay tuned for the Sinister Six movie. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, because towards that scene as well, you can kind of see elements of like all their different costumes as well. Like you see some like Octopus's like legs and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
and
you see
various masks and that kind of stuff. Yeah, Vulture, see his wings.
Do you see Scorpion as well?
They're just framing this up lining this up for this Sinister Six spin-off that ain't gonna happen. It's like, oh god, really? Ridiculous.
They've not learned from this, because you get that, you get something similar to at the end of Venom and things like that.
Spoiler alert.
But the one at the end of Venom's awful as well. But yeah, okay. So he has anything up to like 9 months of grief, and just as he's coming round, he does watch that speech from Emma Stone, which in universe is meant to be moving and inspiring. And he resumes his role as Spider-Man as Rhino is on the rampage. and the police have handily set up a viewing gallery to it. And the little boy comes out in a Spider-Man outfit to confront Rhino.
Oh, I thought it was quite cute though. It's very cheesy, but very cute.
No, I'm not going to complain about it at all. Thought it was fine. And eventually, just as he's about to be hurt, you see and hear something, and Spider-Man swings in.
Saves the day.
Yeah. Says, "I'll take it from here, kid," and sort of swings at Rhino as we go to credits.
Thank God that's over with.
I love the fact it's a bit like when you watch Way of the Dragon and like Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris fight in the Colosseum, but they have a lengthy period of warming up first, like feet away from each other, and it's just kind of a strange protocol thing that Spider-Man stood there and stretching and sort of, stretching his neck, and good to be back in the saddle. I'm thinking, you could have been shot 8 fucking times by now. What's he waiting for? But there you go. That's the end of the film.
Yeah, the Rhino suit's like far different than what it was just a big, tough rubber suit. Now it's that's basically a tank, isn't it? Yeah.
It's the only way I can describe it is it's Batman's tumbler in Rhino suit form.
With legs.
With legs, yeah. That's what I mean.
And as horns.
Like, if the tumbler was like a transformer, it would transform into this.
Transformers.
Thanks for that, Becca.
Sorry. I didn't miss the eye.
Coming soon to D-Space.
You see it? Bollocks, alright then.
Oh God, no, please, don't make me do that. No.
Well, might have to now.
Literally, if we do, I'll be replaced briefly by...
No, we don't replace you.
By somebody else.
No, Becca, if you suffer, we all suffer.
Well, if we're doing it, you fucking are. And if you're not, we ain't. I haven't enjoyed any of the... Again, typical standard Michael Bay, in the half an hour into the first one, I was thinking, this isn't too bad. Then you look at your watch and you go, actually, that's only half an hour. Bloody hell. And then it was torture after that. Final thoughts. I'm not going to say a lot, actually. It's one of those films that I almost feel like I'm putting on my dislike of. Like I liked it, found everyone else didn't like it, went, oh yeah, it's crap. It really wasn't that. I just think that the lead relationship just won so much credit with me. The balls to go there, to kill her, and to actually show it, not graphically, but it hit home anyway. And I like the look of it more than the previous film, because I think this is just suited to better than some Dark Knight knockoff. And so came out with some issues in the Rhino's dialogue, Emma Stone's speech, all the rest of it. But when I watch it again, it's a mess. It's kind of in love with itself. These silly nods to like the Spider-Man theme again. After so many films in, it's like that's really, really tired. You're wasting quality actors left and right. You're introducing things that go nowhere. You've got really cartoony villains, and then really sort of real verisimilitude in the love story. So it's tonally all over the place. It thinks it's funny in places. It isn't. It thinks it's really smart repeatedly, and it's actually a really dumb script. So my overwhelming feeling when I look at it now is, well, we ended up with Tom Holland, so all was right in the end. But certainly at the end of it, I felt a little bit like I did about Die Another Day for Pierce Brosnan, in that I don't really like Pierce Brosnan as Bond now, but at the time he'd made the role his own, and I thought, Christ, you've got to go out on that. And I feel a little bit for Andrew Garfield like that. Like, the first film was promising, even though it was troubled, and you've got so much more talented a pair of leads than you had right the way through. Pound for pound, I'm seeing equivalents to the original cast that are just stronger here. Sally Field and I know that's last week, Sally Field and Martin Sheen, but they're a stronger pairing than the Aunt May and Uncle Ben in the first film. So this was just a sad way to go out for him, and they've redeemed it with a much, much stronger reboot. But Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were good enough to deserve a lot better than this. What about you guys?
Yeah, pretty much summed it up perfectly, I think. Not a lot more to add, apart from my rant at the top of the show. Oh my gosh.
Oh, you don't rant enough, Becca. I think you should rant more.
Must rant more. No.
Yes. Broadly speaking, I enjoy this a lot more than most people. But though, my issues are, nothing that Dave said is actually incorrect. The problem is mostly the production and just not really knowing where to go and what to do and putting too much in there. Though the reason why I enjoy this film is largely Garfield and Stone. I do enjoy like the more lighter touches as well, and certain things here and there. The mistakes made I can sort of overlook and forgive and just accept them for what they are. But broadly speaking, I kind of I always enjoy my time with it. But then that's down to more performance wise.
I'd go along with that. The performances are broadly strong. I mean, although they're strongly broad in one case, Danehound, but yeah. They are doing so much heavy lifting, and I have to say, if we'd done this show, the show didn't exist at the time, but if we'd been around and done this like weekend of release, I'd have been a lot more positive about it. And I will say that the viewing I had this time is comfortably the worst I've ever had. I'm feeling less well disposed to it than I ever have, but the two leads nearly save it.
But then that's the Altzy and Kurtzman thing, I think, isn't it? You just sort of like
they cast a big shadow, don't they?
I think they grate on you, Dave, don't they? Particularly, the more you have to put up with them.
Yeah, and I think I think I don't reverse engineer it. I don't think I watch a film, it's all right. Oh, it was Altzy and Kurtzman, it's shit. I think it's genuine that their faults are so writ large and so repeated through all of their work that the moment you see their names, you fear what you're going to get. And when you go in, you get it every time. They have yet to write an even serviceable script for the big screen. Everything they've written for the big screen has been unmitigated shit. Now, in a couple of cases, the film has had enough going for it to overcome it. Mission Impossible 3 would be one. Actually, Mission Impossible 3 script isn't too bad. That can be the honourable exception. But the Star Trek reboot, both scripts are terrible, but the first film just gets by on goodwill and a lot of charm. But Into Darkness is dreck. It's one of the worst written films I've ever seen. That's ever attracted a budget anyway. I'd take Purvis and Wade over those two. Quite comfortably.
While I was sat there, I was just thinking, I can just see Eon just sort of taking them as new writers.
I hope not. They wouldn't get work, and now Kurtzman is bringing all the same flaws to Star Trek on the small screen.
I kind of hope that they don't kind of make their way to Eon. I would be like, Eon, keep them away, please.
I mean, the new Star Trek isn't a disaster, but an awful lot of the flaws are there. Just over convoluted plotting, bits that don't make sense, emotional speeches that turn out to be utterly meaningless, characters mourning other characters we've not even been properly introduced to, quite dumb action in places where Star Trek is better when people are talking, and he's ruining it. Now, it's got its fans, and if you like Discovery and or Picard, fine by me. Like what you like. What I would be clear on is I'm not disliking New Trek because it isn't 90s Trek. I wanted it to come back different. If anything, I've got more problem with them bringing people like Pike in than most fans, because they're just filling in gaps. It's like it's got modern Trek has nothing new to say. And it's under the stewardship of somebody that just repeatedly has the same flaws. Now, I'm led to believe some of their work on Lost was pretty good. Maybe they are better on TV. But I've seen so much now that I just think, please just stay away from things I like. Please. And this is not a good script. It's one of their least offensive, but it's not a good script.
But I don't know if I know anything about this film, Dave.
I know absolutely nothing, Chris. I tried to style it out last week. I don't know if you noticed. I felt quite guilty because you said, I know nothing. What about you? And I immediately dropped a load of facts on you, and probably
you did display quite a lot of factage.
probably left you quite embarrassed because I was really knowledgeable when you'd sort of slammed my lack of knowledge, and also it left you as the only one. Well, I can now reveal I made all that up. I didn't know anything about the last film. So I'm sorry about that, and I felt guilty all week, so I'm going to come clean here. I am utterly clueless, Chris.
I think we need help.
I think we need help. And when I need help, I switch on the Becca signal.
Oh dear.
And
Batman's going to let himself go.
And it fills the sky with the image of a fairly diminutive, short-haired lady. and then she comes to the rescue, normally on a bus because she can't drive.
Armed with
I can get there on my bike now.
Armed with stuff she read on IMDb trivia.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
And she always leaves me thoroughly satisfied. Becca.
Well, today it's no different. Oh dear. I will try and cast a wide net. As literally, obviously, all the Bond stuff came from my own brain, and other things that come from my own brain will also appear in this segment. But largely, that's the only place I can find information. That is kind of as of a authoritative source. Obviously, apart from hidden in the library, whereas we can't at the moment because they're shut.
You should, just as an aside, you should learn to drive just so you can say when you see the signal, to the Factmobile.
To the Factmobile, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I should call my bike. I'll come up with some name for it, I'm sure. Anyway. So, yeah. I kind of feel bad. Fun fact number 1, I kind of feel bad that we dissed Gwen's graduation speech. Because it turns out Emma Stone wrote it. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, that's not right either, is it? You hire a couple of writers and they're so clueless, you let the fucking actress wing it? Fuck off!
I kind of feel bad that we said we didn't like it. So.
Yeah, but I mean, if you'd hired, if back in the era when like William Holden was writing stuff and winning Oscars or something, they didn't say to the actors, "Will you just write this bit?"
You wrote it then.
That's the biggest slam I've ever heard on them.
Shocking.
Because it does read like Orsi and Kurtzman, which actually tells me an actress who can't fucking write is just as talented as the people they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on hiring.
Maybe she wrote it and then they gave it a polish.
Yeah.
They gave it the Orsi
wipe their
polish.
ass on it and hand
So
it
yeah,
back.
so it was actually a good speech before, but
When they got to it, by the time they were done with it, it was just beyond all recognition.
This is way too straightforward. We need to put far more platitudes in it and meaningless flat.
Not enough platitudes.
Right.
Anyway, fun fact number 2. Apparently it's the first Spider-Man film to be entirely shot in New York State. And it's the largest film production at that time to be shot in New York City. So very, very cool. I think this is quite fun. Well, this is probably obviously widely known at the time, but I think it's quite interesting. And this film, the Sony film, which in cinemas in the US, there's a mid-credits teaser for the 20th Century Fox movie X-Men: Days of Future Past, which was included. Obviously, Mark Webb violated his contract for them to make a film for them after the Spider-Man movie. The first Amazing Spider-Man movie. So Sony had to. So basically, they had to promote the X-Men movie for free.
That was nuts. I've forgotten that. I was seeing that over here, and then what? Like tease, and it's like
X-Men movie. What? Yes, it's some Vietnam scene.
And not even the same studio. It's fucking nuts.
No, it was really weird. It was like, hold on, what's going here? But yeah, because he decided to mess up his contract, that Sony had to say, okay, yeah, we'll promote this Fox film, basically gratis. So. Right,
whatever.
But then didn't he end up extending his contract anyway? So he was due to make 2 films for them, and he ended up making 3.
I think Mark Webb would have come back if they'd done a third, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Well, because it was like that one, and then what was the other one? 500 Days of Summer. Yeah. And there's a third one. I can't remember what he did. Look on IMDb.com. Obviously, being a Doctor Who fan, there's a Doctor Who connection with this movie. Both Andrew Garfield and Felicity Jones have appeared in Doctor Who. Lisa Fronzell actually was considered for the role of the 11th Doctor, which ended up going to Andrew Garfield's friend Matt Smith.
Sorry, who was considered for it?
Oh, Lisa Fronzell, apparently.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Whose name I can't pronounce.
except you just did. Yeah, no,
I'm rubbish
I
with these names. You have to excuse us.
Are they actually mates though, Andrew Garfield and Matt Smith?
I think they were kind of friends. You know, they kind of been in a few things together, I think. And they're both very cool, so it's alright. And I was really struggling for not so fun facts, so I came across a fun fact, which was other actors considered for the role of Electro included Mads Mikkelsen. Imagine how good that would have been. Oh my god. Damien Lewis and Jean Dujardin of The Artist fame.
Okay. None of those are
anything
like each other.
No, they were
tells me they had no
different.
vision. None of them look like each other. They've all got wildly different acting styles.
I can imagine Mads Mikkelsen as maybe Green Goblin or another, that kind of in that kind of vein. But yeah, each are very different. Each bring their own styles and characteristics and methods. But yeah, I was really clutching at straws towards the end. So I thought, well, who else was considered for the role?
It's still fun, folks.
Chris Cooper was apparently considered for the role of Doc Ock in the first sequel to Spider-Man.
How about that?
One.
That would have been interesting as well.
Cool.
I mean, he's on a similar level to
I like Chris.
As a really great character actor.
Oh, I like Chris Cooper. I like Chris Cooper quite a bit. I'm just having a look.
Seabiscuit? No.
Yes, he was. He was the trainer in Seabiscuit.
Yes, there we are.
I'm trying to think what I know him best from. Yeah, the Bourne Identity springs to mind. I mean, I know him from dozens of things, but I mean, what spring to mind first with him? Yeah, the Bourne films. What else? I would say Syriana would spring to mind.
Oh yeah. I remember going to see that film with a friend of mine, and I think we both fell asleep. Also, it was really interesting because it was important.
Can't have been that interesting.
No, it's one of those really films. It's kind of it was a real political film about what was going on at the time, and I think we'd come back from a holiday or something, and we were like, oh, we fell asleep.
He's not actually been in as much as I thought he had. He's got lots of credits, but like I was expected to see like 2 or 3 times as much. But yeah, okay. As for social media, you can find me at thepastykid1976 on Twitter.
You can find me at Cinematronics. You can also find all the old episodes at cinematronics.co.uk.
And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you draw your podcasts from. Just type in Do You Expect Us to Talk, and you can also drop us an email, doyouexpecttotalk@gmail.com. But whichever platform you're on, don't forget to rate us, review us, like us, and share us. I must streamline that. It doesn't sound very catchy.
Well, I don't know. Share us sounds kind of hot.
Not like that though. We're not swinging.
Pass us around.
We've done a bit of swinging for the series, but we're not like that.
Not that sort of swinging. No.
No.
We don't do that. No, careful what rumours you start there, Becca.
Yeah, as though we're not.
That would be an odd line of research. Well, we're doing Spider-Man next, so I need to go to that car park and do some.
Don't go to that car park, whatever you do.
Okay. All right. So we're done we're done for at least 1 week with Spider-Man in the title of the film. We move on to Sony's first actually successful attempt to bring out a spin-off. A swing-off would work, wouldn't it? It's a swing-off from the original series. Yeah, they didn't manage with Sinister Six, but a few years later they managed to bag Tom Hardy to make what we're going to cover next week, which means Becca.
Do You Expect to Talk will return with our review of Venom.